Every time we went out, he'd drop my hand before his friends appeared. 6 months of loving in shadows until I finally asked, "Am I your secret?" His answer shattered me, but what happened next transformed us both into something neither of us expected. If you've ever felt invisible in someone's life, this story will show you how to find your voice and help someone else find theirs. I never thought I'd be someone's secret. Growing up, my mama always told me to walk with my head held high, that my black skin was royalty, and that I deserved to be seen. But love has a way of making you accept things you never thought you would. That's how I found myself falling for a man who seemed to adore everything about me when we were alone. The way his eyes lit up when I walked into the room, how he'd trace the curves of my face with gentle fingertips, the deep conversations that would keep us up until sunrise. It felt like magic, like we were creating our own little universe where nothing else mattered. But then there were the other moments. The way his hand would slip from mine when his phone rang with his mother's call. How he'd introduce me as my friend when we bumped into his co-workers. The family dinners I was never invited to. The social media posts where I was conspicuously absent. At first, I made excuses for him. Maybe he was private, maybe he wasn't ready, maybe he'd been hurt before. I told myself that what we had behind closed doors was real enough to make up for what we didn't have in the light of day. Looking back now, I can see how I was slowly dimming my own light to fit into the shadows he'd carved out for me. But I also see something I couldn't have imagined then, how the journey we were about to embark on would not only change our relationship, but transform us both in ways neither of us could have predicted. This isn't just a love story. It's about finding the courage to ask for what you deserve, the strength to stand firm in your worth, and the compassion to help someone face their deepest fears. Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't accepting someone exactly as they are. It's believing they can be more than their fears allow them to be. I met him on a rainy Tuesday at a coffee shop downtown. I was typing away on my laptop when he asked if he could share my table. All the others were full. Our eyes met, and something just clicked. His smile had this shy warmth to it that made me feel instantly at ease. We started talking, and what should have been a quick coffee turned into hours of conversation. We talked about everything, our childhood dreams, our favorite books, the trips we wanted to take someday. It felt so natural, like we'd known each other in another life. Those first few weeks were intoxicating. He'd text me good morning poems and surprise me with little gifts that showed he was really listening. A book by my favorite author, a playlist of songs that reminded him of me. When we were together, it felt like time both stood still and raced by. We'd cook dinner together, his body swaying against mine as music played softly in the background, or stay up all night talking on my couch, legs intertwined, discovering each other's worlds. But I started noticing things, small things at first. The way he'd check his phone before kissing me in public. How he'd suggest restaurants far from his neighborhood. I remember the first time I realized something was off. We were walking downtown when he suddenly stiffened beside me. "Some colleagues are over there," he whispered, subtly creating distance between us. I felt a cold wave wash over me, but I pushed the feeling down. Then came the explanations. Family gatherings where I wasn't welcome because it's complicated with them. Social media posts where I was cropped out or absent entirely. Friends of his who seemed surprised when I mentioned how long we'd been dating. Each time, he had a reason that sounded just plausible enough for me to accept, even as doubt gnawed at me. I told myself I was being paranoid, that relationships take time to integrate into each other's lives. But deep down, I was beginning to understand that in his world, I existed only in carefully controlled spaces, like a beautiful secret he wasn't ready to share. 6 months into our relationship, the weight of being someone's shadow became too heavy to carry. It was his birthday, and I'd spent weeks planning the perfect celebration, a small dinner with his closest friends at his favorite restaurant. I arrived early, heart fluttering with excitement, imagining his face when he saw what I'd done. But when he walked in and saw me sitting there with the people he cared about most, his expression flickered between joy and panic. He hugged me, but it felt mechanical, distant. The entire night, he barely acknowledged me, introducing me vaguely as Jasmine, with no context, no my girlfriend, nothing to anchor me to his life. The drive home was silent. My chest felt tight, like something was pressing against my lungs. When we reached my apartment, I couldn't hold it in anymore. The question that had been burning inside me for months finally spilled out. Am I your secret? My voice was barely a whisper, but it seemed to fill the entire car. He gripped the steering wheel, knuckles turning white. For a long moment, he said nothing, and in that silence, I heard everything. It's complicated, he finally said, eyes fixed straight ahead. My family, they have expectations. They wouldn't understand us. Understand what? I pressed, though I already knew. He turned to me then, his face a mixture of shame and fear. They're old-fashioned. They've always pictured me with someone who looks like them, I finished for him. Someone who isn't black. The truth hung between us, ugly and raw. He tried to explain about his traditional family, their cultural expectations, his fear of disappointing them. How he loved me but wasn't ready to face the fallout. Each word cut deeper than the last. I'd become the exception to his life, not a part of it. All those months of feeling like I wasn't good enough suddenly made perfect sense. It wasn't about me being enough. It was about me being black, in a world where he wasn't brave enough to challenge the status quo. I stepped out of the car, tears burning hot trails down my cheeks. Call me when you figure out if I'm worth fighting for, I said, and closed the door on his stuttered apologies. For 2 weeks, I didn't hear from him. 2 weeks of crying myself to sleep, questioning my worth, and wondering how I'd let myself become so small. I replayed our relationship in my mind, seeing all the red flags I'd chosen to ignore. My best friend Maya came over with ice cream and righteous anger, ready to help me burn his memories. You deserve someone who celebrates you, she said, wiping my tears. Not someone who treats your blackness like it's something to hide. I called my grandmother, who had survived decades of being told she wasn't enough. Baby, she said, her voice like warm honey over the phone. Loving someone doesn't mean shrinking yourself. Your heart is big, but your dignity is non-negotiable. Their words echoed in my head when he finally called, asking to meet. I agreed, not because I was ready to forgive, but because I needed closure, or perhaps a new beginning on my terms. We met at a park, neutral ground. He looked terrible, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. Part of me wanted to comfort him, but a stronger part stood firm. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he started, voice shaky. I was wrong, so wrong. I've been a coward. I let him talk, pour out his regrets and realizations. He spoke about confronting his own internalized prejudices, about his shame, not of me, but of his own weakness. As he spoke, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about forgiving him. It was about deciding what I deserved. I want to try again, he finally said. I want to do better. I took a deep breath. I need you to understand something. I won't be your secret anymore. I won't be introduced as your friend. I won't be cropped out of your life. If you want me, you get all of me. My blackness, my history, my pride. And that means standing beside me, publicly and proudly. I set clear conditions, family introductions within a month, social media acknowledgement, and couples therapy to address the racial dynamics in our relationship. This wasn't just about saving us, it was about creating something entirely new from the ashes of what we'd been, something honest, something equal. I'm scared, he admitted, but I'm more scared of losing you. I was scared too, scared of being hurt again, scared of investing more of myself in someone who might not be brave enough. But sometimes, courage is giving someone the chance to rise to the occasion, while being prepared to walk away if they don't. The next few months were like walking a tightrope together, terrifying but exhilarating. We started with small steps. He held my hand at the grocery store, introduced me properly to a colleague we bumped into. Each time, I could see the internal battle in his eyes, the fear fighting against his determination. We had long, sometimes painful conversations about race, about privilege, about what it meant to be a black woman in America. I shared stories of microaggressions I'd faced, times I'd been made to feel less than. At first, he would get defensive, but slowly, he began to truly listen. The first real test came when he invited me to Sunday dinner with his family. I spent hours choosing the perfect outfit, practicing responses to potential awkward questions. When we arrived, his mother's tight smile didn't reach her eyes. His father was polite but distant. His younger sister, however, immediately embraced me, asking about my work and genuinely engaging. Throughout dinner, I felt his mother's evaluating gaze, heard the careful way she asked about my background. When she mentioned a family friend's daughter who would be perfect for him, I felt him tense beside me. Then something shifted. He reached for my hand across the table, fingers intertwining with mine in full view. "Mom," he said, voice steady, "I'm in love with Jasmine. She's brilliant, kind, and she makes me better. I hope you can see that too." The silence that followed was deafening, but in that moment, something changed between us. He had chosen me, publicly and unequivocally. That night marked a turning point. At work, he put our photo on his desk. On social media, he posted pictures of us together with heartfelt captions. When a friend made an off-color joke at a party, he didn't laugh it off. He called it out. It wasn't always perfect. He made mistakes, stumbled in his allyship. But what mattered was that he kept trying, kept growing. With each stand he took, I watched him become more confident, more authentic, more himself. Ironically, in fighting for our relationship, he was finding his own voice, his own courage. He wasn't just standing up for me, he was standing up for the person he wanted to be. Today, our relationship looks nothing like it did 2 years ago. The man who once introduced me as just a friend now proudly calls me his fiancée. Yes, you heard that right. He proposed last month, right in front of his entire family at their annual reunion. As I stood there with happy tears streaming down my face, I couldn't help but marvel at our journey. His mother, who once could barely look me in the eye, now calls me weekly for recipes and life advice. It wasn't an overnight transformation. There were uncomfortable conversations, tense holidays, and moments when she'd slip into old patterns. But something beautiful happened as she got to know me as a person rather than a concept. She began to see her own prejudices for what they were. The day she defended our relationship to a judgmental relative was the day I knew we'd truly broken through. Not everyone came around. Some friends drifted away, uncomfortable with the mirror our relationship held up to their own biases. But for each person who left, others stepped forward. Allies we never expected, people whose own mixed relationships had faced similar struggles, colleagues who became true friends. We built a community around us that celebrated our love rather than questioned it. The greatest change, though, has been in him. The man who once hid in shadows now speaks at diversity panels at his workplace. He reads books about racial justice, not to impress me, but because he genuinely wants to understand. When he hears microaggressions, he addresses them immediately. "I used to stay silent to avoid rocking the boat," he told me recently, "but loving you taught me that silence is its own kind of violence." Our relationship isn't perfect. No relationship is. We still have arguments and misunderstandings. The world still sometimes looks at us with questioning eyes. But now we face it all together, standing in the full light of day. What began as a painful confrontation has become the foundation of something stronger than I could have imagined. A love that doesn't diminish either of us, but makes us both more fully ourselves. The journey from being hidden to standing proud wasn't just about our relationship surviving, it was about both of us becoming the people we were meant to be. Looking back at the woman I was when this journey began, I barely recognize her, the one who accepted shadows instead of spotlight, who made herself small to fit into someone else's fear. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that love should never shrink you. True love expands, challenges, and transforms both people. Our story isn't just about interracial dating or overcoming prejudice. It's about finding the courage to ask for what you deserve and the compassion to help someone grow. Sometimes loving someone means believing they can be better than they currently are, while being prepared to walk away if they aren't willing to try. I'm often asked if it was worth it. The tears, the confrontations, the uncomfortable family dinners. My answer is always the same. I didn't just gain a partner who proudly stands beside me. I reclaimed parts of myself I had begun to surrender. And he didn't just gain a relationship, he found a strength and authenticity he never knew he possessed. If you're hiding in someone's shadows right now, know this: you deserve to stand in the light. Your love doesn't diminish in visibility, it grows. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone is the opportunity to rise to the occasion, to become braver than their fears. Love should never make you feel smaller. Your story deserves to be told, your love deserves to be seen. If this resonated with you, share in the comments how you found the courage to stand proud in your truth, or how you're working toward that now.